Well, the wreckage of a Navy ship that sank more than 70 years ago has been found. The ship played a critical role in the bombing of Hiroshima before being sunk by Japanese torpedoes in 1945.
Buried beneath decades of dust, silence, and secrecy lies a treasure trove of forgotten relics, eerie ruins, and mind-blowing artifacts from the most devastating conflict in human history. In this video, we dive headfirst into 20 of the most astonishing World War II discoveries, some found in the depths of oceans, others behind innocent suburban walls. These aren't just rusty helmets or faded letters. We're talking about fully intact war machines, secret hideouts built for the end of the world, and one unexpected find hidden in the chimney of a quiet English home. What could a Pigeon have carried that still baffles codebreakers to this day? Stay tuned, because the past is about to rise from the shadows, and every discovery tells a story you've never heard before. Ready to uncover the unbelievable? Let's begin. Number 20. Yubot Rex. German U-boats, the stealthy submarines that prowled the Atlantic during World War II, posed a serious threat to Allied shipping lanes, operating either solo or in coordinated wolf packs. These submarines launched devastating torpedo attacks on convoys, aiming to disrupt the vital flow of supplies and materials to Europe's war front. In response, Allied forces intensified their anti-submarine warfare tactics, deploying advanced sonar, radar, and increased aerial patrols. As a result, many U-boats met their fate at sea, either destroyed in combat or scuttled to avoid capture. These vessels eventually became submerged tombs for their crews, lost to the depths and time, until modern technology made it possible to locate them once again. One of the most impressive rediscoveries is U-576. It is one of the German submarines sunk around the east coast of the United States in 1942. Found upside down in the seabed, it was discovered in 2016 with its deck gun strangely pointing forward. The wreck was incredibly well preserved, offering a cold window into life aboard these confined, dangerous war machines. ROVs were used to document the site in detail, and artifacts such as logbooks and crew gear were found to help understand their daily operation and the mental strain of warfare underwater. From the chilling silence of the ocean floor, we now soar to a frozen lake where another forgotten war relic waited decades to tell its story. Number 19. Bell P-39 Airacobra in Russia. In the remote Murman region of Russia, a remarkable World War II discovery emerged from the icy depths of Lake Mart Yavor. A Bell P-39 Airacobra fighter plane, virtually intact, along with the preserved remains of its Soviet pilot, Lieutenant Ivan Baranovsky. This aircraft had originally been supplied to the USSR through the American Lend-Lease program and was piloted during active operations in November 1944. For reasons still unknown, Baranovsky made an abrupt landing on the frozen lake and never returned to base. His plane lay hidden beneath the surface for nearly 6 decades until a fisherman spotted a portion of the tail protruding from the ice in July 2004, triggering a full recovery operation. This find was salient chiefly due to the wreck preservation of the past. Within it was superbly intact for ages. Here, the authorities found a maintenance log perfectly intact within the cockpit haunting time capsule from the war. After being honored posthumously, Baranovsky was laid to rest in Murmansk's Alley of Glory. The aircraft itself undertook an extraordinary journey, transported several continents to Jim Pierce's restoration workshop, where it's in West Sussex, England, before finally arriving at its permanent home in the Niagara Aerospace Museum in Buffalo, New York. This find not only illuminates a forgotten episode of Allied-Soviet cooperation, but also honors the life and service lost to history of an all-too-young pilot. Number 18. The Bismar Wreck. Beneath the cold, rolling waves of the North Atlantic rests the Bismarck, one of the most feared and formidable battleships of World War II. Launched by Nazi Germany in 1939 and named after the 19th century statesman Otto von Bismarck, this steel titan was engineered for naval dominance, boasting thick armor and massive guns intended to cripple Allied shipping routes. The Bismarck's short but dramatic career came to a head in May 1941 when it engaged British forces in a clash that resulted in the catastrophic sinking of HMS Hood. Although the Bismarck initially managed to evade pursuit, British aircraft soon struck a fatal blow by damaging its rudder, leaving the ship unable to steer. On May 27, 1941, British battleships closed in, bombarding the vessel until it sank, with only 114 out of over 2,200 crew surviving the encounter. For years, though, the locational coordinates of the Bismarck were out of human grasp until in 1989, when undersea explorer Robert Ballard, also known for his finding of the Titanic, neared the wreck at about 15,000 feet deep down in the ocean. High-resolution images showed that the hull of the battleship was still substantially intact, a fact that would create a buzz among historians and maritime enthusiasts across the globe. It not only brought closure to one of the most dramatic international naval battles that World War II could produce, but it also resurrected an invaluable research site that would illuminate both the engineering marvel that the vessel represented and the severity of that terrible war in which it took part. Today, the Bismarck Wreck becomes a solemn monument to the brutal naval warfare of that era, quietly preserving the legacy of those who served aboard it. Number 17. Battleship Mousashi. In the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, the Battleship Mousashi, one of the largest and heaviest warships ever constructed, lay hidden for over 70 years beneath the Sulu Sea. Commissioned in 1942 as part of the Imperial Japanese Navy's Yamato class, Musashi was armed with 9 massive 18.1-inch guns, making it a floating fortress designed to dominate naval warfare. Despite its formidable firepower and armor, the ship met its fate during the Battle of Leyte Gulf in October 1944, when American aircraft launched a relentless aerial assault. After enduring numerous bomb and torpedo hits, the behemoth finally succumbed to the sea, taking nearly 1,000 of its 2,399 crew with it. The wreck remained elusive until 2015, when a team led by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen successfully located the Musashi over 3,000 feet below the ocean surface. The expedition utilized cutting-edge sonar and data gathered from historical records across multiple countries to pinpoint the site. Video footage of the wreckage revealed a shattered yet recognizable warship with immense turrets and twisted hull sections echoing the violence of its final battle. Number 16. Hidden Nazi Wall Stash. In 2021, a remarkable discovery came to light in the German city of Hagen, where a local homeowner, prompted by flood damage, removed plasterboard from a wall and stumbled upon a concealed compartment filled with Nazi-era artifacts. Hidden behind the wall was an astonishing cache of wartime relics, including a vintage revolver, brass knuckles, gas masks, Nazi badges, and an original 1945 newspaper. Among the most striking items was a framed portrait of Adolf Hitler, suggesting that the materials had not only historical value but also ideological significance. The nature and careful concealment of the stash indicated a hasty but deliberate effort to hide incriminating or politically sensitive items as Allied forces advanced through Germany near the end of World War II. The find provided a rare and unfiltered glimpse into the remnants of Nazi propaganda and the personal effects of those affiliated with the regime. Further probing revealed that the house was previously a hideout for the National Socialist People's Welfare Organization, NSV, which was one of the main components of the Nazi social apparatus. The NSV was in charge of providing relief and enforcing the regime's ideological values through welfare programs, and it usually conducted its activities in places like this one that were not easily identifiable. Some historians believe that at the time the Third Reich started to crumble, some people associated with the NSV most probably used to hide away behind walls all those sensitive materials to avoid prosecution or shame. Conserved items, most of which remain in pristine condition, give researchers a lively and almost unspoiled snapshot of life within the domestic institutions of the Nazi state. Number 15. Panther tank in a basement. In 2015, authorities in Heikendorf, Germany, uncovered a World War II-era Panther tank in the basement of an 84-year-old retiree, Klaus Dieter Flick. The tank, a 43-ton Panzer V model, was part of an extensive collection of military artifacts that included an anti-aircraft gun, a torpedo, and a variety of small arms and ammunition. Flick had acquired the tank in the 1970s, transporting it from a junkyard in England through the Netherlands to Germany. He then restored it with assistance from German military experts and installed it in a specially modified underground bunker beneath his villa. The tank was so well maintained that neighbors recalled Flick using it to clear snow during a blizzard in 1978. This discovery gave rise to court proceedings created by German laws prohibiting unauthorized possession of war weapons. The prosecutors stressed that the tank and other weapons could be operational, whereas the defense argued that nothing was operational or posed a threat because they were decreed to be beyond useful life. Flick was convicted in 2021 for illegal possession of weapons, receiving a 14-month suspended sentence and fine of €250,000. The court also ruled that within 2 years Flick should sell or donate the tank and the anti-aircraft gun to a museum or a collector. The case reflects the challenges that come with the assessment of historical artifacts ownership, as well as the inherent difficulty of balancing private collecting with public safety and legality. Number 14. Hitler's Führer Bunker. Hidden beneath the heart of modern Berlin lies one of the most infamous remnants of World War II, the Führer Bunker, Adolf Hitler's final command post. Constructed in 1936 and later expanded as the war intensified, this underground complex became the epicenter of the crumbling Third Reich during its final days. By April 1945, as Soviet forces closed in on Berlin, Hitler had retreated into the heavily fortified bunker, protected by reinforced concrete and layers of earth. It was within these claustrophobic chambers that he held frantic military meetings, issued increasingly irrational orders, and ultimately ended his life alongside Eva Braun. Following the war, the Soviets discovered the bunker, but kept many details about its layout and contents classified, fueling decades of speculation and mystery. For decades, the site seemed mostly forgotten, buried under the ever-expanding cityscape of East Berlin. Attempts by the East German authorities to erase the bunker from memory were foiled due to the sheer strength of the construction. It was only really in the 80s that more serious excavation work began, uncovering rubble, personal effects, official documents, and even original signage from the corridors. Much of the bunker today is shut and inaccessible, with a small plate marking the approximate site tucked away in a residential area. Unlike so many historical landmarks, there is no grand monument to commemorate the site, a conscious choice to avoid making it a shrine for wayward spirits. Nevertheless, the Führer Bunker still tells its epic and sinister tale, leaving historians and pilgrims fascinated with a very disturbing glimpse into the final sweaty days of Nazi Germany. Number 13. Ireland's Neutrality Signs. During World War II, while much of Europe was engulfed in conflict, Ireland maintained a position of official neutrality. However, its geographic location meant that Irish airspace was frequently crossed by both Allied and Axis aircraft. To avoid accidental bombings or airspace violations, the Irish government implemented a unique strategy, carving massive stone markers into the landscape that spelled out AERE, the Irish word for Ireland. These signs, some stretching up to 40 feet across and whitewashed for visibility, were placed along coastal cliffs and high terrain, serving as unmistakable aerial signals to pilots that they were flying over neutral territory. Each marker was numbered and typically located near lookout posts that were manned to report any suspicious activity. For a long time, some of these neutrality signs faded into the obscurity of the wilderness and were forgotten by everyone except local historians. In 2018, wildfires in County Wicklow burned away a thick undergrowth, reviving yet again one of these historical markers. Aerial surveys by emergency teams caught the ghostly outline of the stone letters, which later was identified as the 8th in the original series of signs. Interest in this lesser-known aspect of World War II history was rekindled by the rediscovery of history that definitely manifested Ireland's subtle, though significant desire to assert itself and keep from being a casualty of the wider war. Every now and then, hikers or developers will rediscover them, still standing to tell the story of a little nation striving to stay untouched in a world at war. Number 12. Spy Pigeon in a Chimney. In a quiet English village, a remarkable piece of World War II history was uncovered in the most unexpected of places, a chimney. During a routine home renovation, a homeowner in Surrey discovered the mummified remains of a carrier pigeon lodged inside the old fireplace. Even more astonishing was what the bird still carried, an undelivered coded message sealed in a small red canister attached to its leg. Experts quickly identified the pigeon as part of the extensive network used by British forces during the war, particularly by the Special Operations Executive, SOE, which relied on these birds to transport top-secret intelligence across enemy lines when other communication methods risked interception. The message, written on fragile wartime paper, was thought to have been flown to British intelligence headquarters when the trap was sprung, and the pigeon died. The fumes of the chimney probably stifled the bird before he could bring it. Historians sent the note to Bletchley Park, the famous center for British code-breaking. However, the contents of the encrypted message remain uncracked as of today. It was an interesting find that interested both the public and experts, partly because of its rarity and partly because of what it represented. The very evident, if often overlooked, roles animals played in warfare. This dusty little forgotten pigeon stands as a painful and odd reminder of the millions of untold tales woven into the fabric of World War II's massive intelligence operations. Number 11. USS Indianapolis Wreck. In July 1945, the USS Indianapolis, a Portland-class heavy cruiser of the United States Navy, completed one of the most pivotal missions of World War II, one which involved carrying parts of the atomic bomb to be later dropped on Hiroshima. After the successful conclusion of this very top-secret mission, the Indianapolis sailed unescorted across the Philippine Sea on its way to the Philippines. On July 30th, the ship was attacked by torpedoes fired from a Japanese submarine. The attack was fast and furious. Indianapolis sank in 12 minutes with the loss of about 300 crewmen. The rest of the 900 stranded sailors suffered unimaginable conditions of dehydration and exposure while being attacked by sharks over 4 long days in these infested waters. Rescue efforts were delayed due to miscommunication, and only 316 men survived, making this the deadliest single sinking of a U.S. Navy ship in history in terms of loss of life at sea. For decades, the final resting place of the Indianapolis was unknown, thus maintaining a shroud of speculation and sorrow among the survivors and historians. Then, in 2017, a wreckage survey led by a team funded by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen discovered the wreck 18,000 feet beneath the Philippine Sea. Underwater videos showed a battered but almost intact hull, providing a long-awaited moment of closure for one of the most tragic chapters in naval history. We shift to a different kind of wreck, one that tells the story of wartime courage not in battle, but in preparation. Number 10. Lake Michigan Dauntless. During World War II, the U.S. Navy used Lake Michigan as a training ground for carrier pilots, launching aircraft from converted steamships acting as makeshift aircraft carriers. Among the aircraft frequently used in these exercises was the Douglas SBD Dauntless, a dive bomber renowned for its role in pivotal Pacific battles such as Midway. While these training missions were vital in preparing pilots for combat, they were not without risk. Mishaps were common. Aircraft often overshot the decks, failed to gain enough altitude, or suffered mechanical failures, causing them to crash into the lake's deep, frigid waters. Over the decades, dozens of these aircraft sank to the bottom, many forgotten and left to deteriorate in the silence of the lakebed. In that period, however, divers and naval historians have engaged in concerted campaigns to find and recover these submerged warbirds. Several Dauntlesses have been recovered from 100-foot depths, quite a few of them emerging almost intact after having spent nearly 80 years submerged. One such example appeared with its fuselage still very much intact, all encased with zebra mussels and lake sediment. Once they are retrieved, they are painstakingly restored by museum experts, viewing them not just as artifacts, but as incredibly powerful teaching tools, and as tributes to men who trained with them. These rediscovered and restored Dauntless bombers now become metaphorically symbolizing sacrifices and preparations behind each frontline mission and the inland waters that also played a role in the otherwise general picture of World War II. Number 9. Operation Burnhard Counterfeit Notes. In the final years of World War II, Nazi Germany launched one of the most ambitious and covert economic sabotage missions in history, Operation Burnhard. The objective was to destabilize the British economy by flooding it with expertly forged banknotes. To execute the plan, the Nazis recruited skilled forgers, many of them Jewish prisoners held in concentration camps, forcing them to replicate British pound notes with astonishing precision. At its peak, the operation produced an estimated £130 million in counterfeit currency, a staggering sum that had the potential to spark financial chaos in the United Kingdom had it entered circulation on a large scale. As the Allied forces pushed into Germany, the Nazis tried really hard to cover up what they had done. They packed huge amounts of forged notes in a crate and dumped that crate into some very far-off lakes of Austria, most notably one lake called Toplitz, in order to perpetually hide the operation. Decades after, some of these water-damaged bills began to show up as the result of treasure hunters diving and collecting. Such news/artifacts that have long been rumored to be in existence have at long last been confirmed. The forged notes had been made so painstakingly that even financial experts couldn't tell them apart from the original ones. Today, Operation Burnhard is yet one of the most audacious attempts at economic warfare in modern history, and every found note stands as a monument to miserable prisoners forced to help a regime's desperate last gamble. Number 8. Bronze Eagle of Admiral Graphspe. In 1939, the German warship Admiral Graphspe became the center of one of the earliest and most dramatic naval confrontations of World War II. After sustaining damage from British warships near the Rio de la Plata, its captain, Hans Langsdorff, opted to scuttle the vessel rather than allow it to be captured. The Graphspe sank just off the coast of Montevideo, Uruguay, taking with it numerous symbols of Nazi power, including a massive bronze eagle gripping a swastika in its talons. For decades, the wreck remained largely untouched until a team of divers in 2006 recovered the towering 6-foot-tall sculpture from the murky waters. Raising the artifact was a delicate operation, hindered by strong currents and limited visibility, but its eventual emergence sent shockwaves through both historical and political communities. Henceforward, the eagle's discovery provoked furious arguments over how a symbol so sublimated in the modern era should be treated. Some argued it needed to be smashed because the eagle emulated Nazi ideology. Others, however, considered it an invaluable historical artifact, worth preserving and contextualizing. Eventually, after a long legal tussle, it was decided that the eagle should be melted down and transformed into a peace symbol, an attempt at reclaiming the material and depriving it of its original oppressive meaning. This transformation from a proud symbol of tyranny into a newly conceived icon of peace is exactly a microcosm of the complexities attending engagement with physical remnants of dark historical legs. The recovery is easily one of the most incomparably dramatic and thought-provoking discoveries of World War II, reminding the world that the binary of memory versus reckoning is always that delicate. Number 7. The Ghost Army. Among the most unconventional and ingenious military units of World War II was the U.S. Army's 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, better known as the Ghost Army. This top-secret unit was composed of artists, sound engineers, designers, and radio operators, all recruited for their creative skills rather than combat experience. Their mission: to deceive German forces by creating the illusion of large Allied troop movements and military presence where none actually existed. Instead of deploying real tanks and artillery, the Ghost Army used inflatable rubber decoys, which, from the air or a distance, appeared indistinguishable from the real thing. These lifelike mock-ups were accompanied by carefully crafted soundscapes, recordings of troop activity, construction, and even tank engines, broadcast through massive speakers to further sell the illusion of a formidable force. They used every sort of high-tech illusion almost near the front line, with these operations just after the real Ally units moved out, renewing a clearly seamless illusion that misled enemy reconnaissance and German strategic planning. They even went so far as to wear other division uniforms, fabricate fake radio traffic, and even dirt with local populations under assumed identities to fully complete the deception. This work was highly classified, remaining unknown to the public for decades after the war. In recent years, the Ghost Army has finally started to gain that recognition incredible contributions made. Its artistic sleight of hand, now viewed as critical to the saving of Allied lives, enabling battlefield victories. So far, it stands as one of the most fascinating and unexpected elements of World War II strategy, where creativity became a powerful weapon in fighting tyranny. Number 6. Cotton Mass Graves. The Cotton mass graves stand as one of the most haunting atrocities of World War II, representing a deliberate act of political violence and long-suppressed truth. In the spring of 1940, roughly 22,000 Polish military officers, intellectuals, and community leaders were executed by the Soviet NKVD, the forerunner to the KGB, under direct orders from Stalin. These individuals had been taken as prisoners of war following the Soviet invasion of eastern Poland in 1939. Their mass execution was intended to cripple Poland's national leadership and eliminate future resistance. After the fighting had come to an end, there followed an era when the Soviets denied any complicity in the event, ostracizing the charge and branding its authors Nazis for the massacre and victim of the falsehood for decades. Here, it wasn't until the close of the 20th century, with the gradual declassification of Soviet documents and changes in the political climate, that there would be any official acknowledgement of the truth. The delayed recognition only multiplied the pain from the loss and from injustice for Poland and the families of the victims. The excavations and archival research continued to reveal many of the victims, bringing them much-needed closure and a much clearer understanding of the extent of the crime. The Katyn massacre remains a chilling example of state-mediated violence. Its very discovery speaks to the power of hidden history to surface, sometimes many years or generations from the original event when that world is finally prepared to confront it. Number 5. SS Garopa Silver Treasure. In 1941, during the height of World War II, the British cargo steamship SS Garopa was torpedoed by a German U-boat off the coast of Ireland while carrying a valuable load of goods from India to Britain. Among its cargo was a massive shipment of silver intended to support the war effort, secretly stored aboard the vessel. The ship sank quickly, dragging its precious contents down nearly 3 miles to the seafloor in the frigid depths of the Atlantic Ocean. For decades, the exact location of the wreck remained a mystery, with only scattered rumors and sparse documentation hinting at the immense treasure lying below. An American marine exploration company undertook a high-technology deep-sea mission in the year 2011, which led to the successful finding of the wreck of the Garopa. The team used submersible technology to capture beautiful images of the ship's deteriorating structure, nestled amidst sparkling silver bars scattered on the ocean floor. In total, they recovered over 1,100 bars weighing around 48 tons of silver, one of the largest and deepest salvage operations for precious metals in history. Surprisingly, most of the silver was found to be in a good state of preservation after lying on the seabed for 70 years. Number 4. Jerusalem of the North Artifacts. Before World War II, the city of Vilnius, Lithuania, often referred to as the Jerusalem of the North, was a thriving center of Jewish culture, scholarship, and religious life. When the Nazis occupied Lithuania, they systematically destroyed or repurposed many of the city's synagogues, libraries, and cultural institutions. Among the most sacred of these was the Great Synagogue of Vilnius, a grand religious complex that served as the heart of the Jewish community. As the Holocaust unfolded, brave individuals attempted to preserve their heritage by hiding religious manuscripts, Torah scrolls, ceremonial objects, and prayer garments in secret caches beneath the synagogue, hoping they might one day be recovered. Number 3. Sunken German military truck. In a quiet rural region shaped by fading memories of World War II, local rumors told of a German military truck lost to a nearby river during the war's chaotic final days. For years, the story was treated as little more than local legend, until receding water levels during a particularly dry season revealed the faint outline of a vehicle beneath the river's surface. Motivated by historical curiosity and anecdotal accounts, a team of divers and historians launched an investigative effort that led to the remarkable recovery of a sunken German military truck. Amazingly, despite decades underwater, much of the truck's chassis remained intact, including its original license plate, a critical detail that helped confirm its wartime origin. Others believe that before its final use as a bunker, it was utilized by the German army to transport munitions and small arms, a logistic workhorse for a retreating army, almost up to the inevitable defeat. It is believed the truck had to be left behind and shoved into the river. That way, the Allies would not get their hands on the advancing forces. The local authorities promptly took measures to secure the site to prevent looting and commenced conservation efforts to protect the rusty but historically significant artifact. Number 2. Churchill's Covert Bunker Network. During the darkest days of World War II, as the threat of a German invasion loomed over Britain, Winston Churchill authorized the formation of a highly secretive resistance effort known as the Auxiliary Units. This covert force was made up of local volunteers who were trained in sabotage, reconnaissance, and guerrilla tactics, and who would operate from hidden underground bases should the Nazis ever land on British soil. More than 500 of these operational bases, also called bunkers, were built across the British countryside, cleverly concealed in woodlands, beneath farm buildings, or under false floors. Constructed in utmost secrecy, their entrances were camouflaged, and only a select few individuals knew of their existence. From a tragic mission lost at sea to training flights that never made it home, the last discovery proves that even practice runs can leave behind powerful wartime legacies. Number 1. USS Yorktown. The USS Yorktown was one of the most important aircraft carriers that ever belonged to the Pacific Fleet of the U.S. Navy and played a key role in several decisive battles during World War II. After having sustained heavy wounds in the Battle of the Coral Sea in May 1942, it was quickly repaired and rushed into service at the decisive Battle of Midway just a few weeks later. There, the American forces turned the tide of the Pacific War by sinking 4 Japanese carriers. However, several Japanese torpedoes released by aircraft and submarines struck the Yorktown during the battle. In spite of rescue efforts, the carrier was severely tilted and eventually sank on June 7, 1942, becoming one of the greatest losses at sea during the entire war. Thanks for joining us on this journey through some of the most incredible World War II discoveries. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment with your favorite find, and subscribe for more history brought to life. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Ready for more? Click on the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.